All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of The Deep End. This is our final episode of 2025. I can't believe how fast this year flew by. I mean, I guess in hindsight, they always do. At the end of the year, you always look back and think, man, where did the time go? But today's episode, as we close out the year and get ready to head into the next one, is going to be pretty special. We're going to kind of look back on our investing goals for 2025 for this past year and see how we shaped up. And we'll share some investing goals for this upcoming year for 2026. But before we get into any of that, I got to pass it over to my main man, Ari. How are you doing today, man? How's it going?
As I was listening to you share, Ryan, it is crazy that it's been a year. One full year of me and you diving into the deep end together with everybody out there. First of all, I just want to say, what an honor. And I also want to share that Ryan and I have so many plans coming up in 2026. Huge plans, which we're going to get into in a bit. But before we even get there, I do have to say that the more of a following this channel gets, the more Ryan and I are going to be able to do more guests, bigger guests, and everything in between. And so I just want to start off on a very strong note with a request for everybody that if you are not subscribed to the Deep End, join us now before the new year. You're not going to want to miss out what we have coming in 2026. And I want everybody a part of this because, Ryan and I first started the Deep End off the notion that hey, let's have everybody join in on our weekly conversations. We see that it's been adding value to some investors' lives, which is awesome. But the more people even in this community, the more we have to go off of and do more things. And it's just, we're in the midst of a revolution. That's really what I'm getting at here. So
Wow.
join us.
Big word, man, throwing around the R word. Yeah, absolutely. And it's been pretty surreal. It's been pretty surreal to see this past year, a lot of the feedback, a lot of the comments that have come in from you guys, some of which are I look forward to this every single week. This is now becoming my favorite investing show, or it's even crazy to hear some of you guys say, wow, I can't believe you're talking about X, Y, and Z. I was just thinking about this the other day. So thank you guys for all of the great comments, all of the great feedback, all the support. I'm really glad that this stuff is resonating with you, especially as you guys know, we don't script these conversations. We just hit record and see where it goes. And so like Ari said, it's been an honor to do this with you, Ari, but it's also been an honor to have you guys a part of this community with us. And we can't wait to grow it more in 2026. And like Ari said, one of our big goals for this podcast in the upcoming year and the subsequent years as well is to have more guests on the show. And part of that, we want you guys to be able to hop on with us. We want to share, your investing journeys and hear about what you've done so far in your investing journey. So if you feel like you have a story to tell, if you've been, down this investing road for quite a while and think that you have some insight and advice to offer to other investors, we want to have you on in the deep end with us. And we've actually put together this quick form. It's like just a form to submit some information. If you want to be a guest on the deep end and hop on and chat with us, there's a link to that form in the description of the video. We'll also put it in the pinned comment as well. And it's pretty fast. It's pretty easy. It shouldn't take more than 2 or 3 minutes to fill out that form. So if you want to dive into the deep end with us, be on the show, there's the link to the form in the description and also in the comment. Once again, I just want to throw it out there.
Now, speaking of guests, I will say we're going to have, I think, a pretty epic guest joining us in the new year right off the bat. So, again, your opportunity now to dive in the deep end with us. Make sure you're locked in, subscribe, and be sure to tune in next episode. But Ryan, let's get to this episode, man. This episode, Ryan and I wanted to talk about goals. We wanted to talk about the goals that we had this year in 2025 and the goals that we have for 2026. And I think, Ron, you recall when we last did an episode like this, it was a pretty good episode. It was pretty well received.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people like to hear about goals. And before we even get to talking about what our goals are, I do want to say, every year, of course, like you got the goal setters who then like never actually achieve their goals and fall short come like end of February. Can we talk about that real quick?
Yeah. Yeah. So what do you think that is? Because you're right. I mean, this is obviously a very popular time for goal setting. Everyone has their New Year's resolutions, and so I think one of the big, I guess, criticisms of the New Year's resolution, while it can be a good thing, uh, the main criticism is that a lot of people, I don't remember the percentage, there's some stat out there, but there's a large percentage of people who set these big goals for themselves in the upcoming year. They're going to transform their lives, and then 4 to 6 weeks into the new year, they've already kind of given up on those goals. Is that kind of what you want to touch on? Yeah. So what do you
Yeah,
think about that?
I remember, wow, about a decade ago now, I was the sales director at a Jersey Strong gym, gyms, multiple gyms, and so I was training others how to sell, and I ran, the sales teams,
Mm,
and we always, I knew that January was always a big year, right? But the thing was for me, um, if you generate initial sales, right, like the New Year's sales push, but you don't retain the memberships, in my eyes, it was useless. And so something that I really started to crack down on when I was training these reps was not just getting the goals from people, but asking them, um, basically what I'd have them do, is I'd a couple weeks before the new year and a week into the new year, I would have them ask people what their goals are and then jot that down on these new membership forms. And I had then asked, so that was about 50% of the people. And then I had the other 50% ask what the goals are and then why their goal is that goal. And as it turns, I found statistically that those sales reps that got the why had stronger retention rates with those that they signed up to the gym. And I'm a big believer in asking why and getting to the roots of, questions. Like I hate surface level conversation. I can't stand it. Surface level people, it's just like I got nothing, almost nothing to talk about, right? I can't remain on the surface. I guess that's why we're here in the deep end.
if anyone out there ever asks Ari about what he thinks of the weather and he walks away, now you know why.
Yeah, I just walk away immediately.
Just shakes his head in disbelief.
But getting to the why is where things always got interesting. And I think a lot of people, I think this is the big reason why people don't stick to their goals. They either A, don't have a why, or B, their why is not strong enough to
Mm,
sustain the moments of rough going, because those moments will come. And so, for example, someone wants to lose weight, however much weight it is. Well, do you really want to lose weight, or is this just, some like wish wash dream that you have, because it'd be nice, right? Financially speaking, you want your first 1,000 or 5,000 or 10,000 or 50,000, $100,000. Is that one, is that achievable for you to do in X amount of time? And two, why do you want to do it? Is it just about the money? Or do you have a driving force behind that to actually help you get there? What do you think about that?
No, I think that's a great point. And specifically, we know I can talk about the fitness part of it for the rest of the episode, but when it comes to the finance stuff specifically, I think, or investing, I should say, I think for a lot of people, investing starts out as this thing, like their why for doing it is just because, well, I should. It's something that I just need to do. Everyone should be investing, I guess. I don't know. It's just like I've made this comparison in previous episodes. You'll laugh at this, but it's like eating broccoli. It's like, well, why are you eating broccoli? Well, I just know I should. That's the why. I just know I should. And it's you don't really, there's no really there's not much thought given to it beyond that. And and I don't know, I guess, and I totally agree with with everything you're saying. And but here's why I get conflicted. I think, well, number one, having a why is absolutely essential. That's your North Star. That is your guide. Because to your point, it's not always going to be easy to persevere and stay consistent and disciplined. And so that why is what keeps you going during the times where it is most difficult. But here's where I get conflicted. On the other side of that, I think sometimes, even if this why is a bit lukewarm or it's not a strong why, if that's the thing that gets them going and gets them to take action, then overall it is a net positive. And I think, and I hope for this is the case for all people. It's not. I don't think it is in reality, but I wish it was. I think your why grows and changes over time. Like investing, well, actually, let me say this. With working out, your why starts, well, I want to lose 20 pounds just because I need to get more in shape or whatever. Like for my case, when I started lifting weights, oh, well, I want to put on some muscle because I'm sick of being like this skinny guy. I want to like look more attractive physically. And that's how it starts. It's not a really strong why. It's kind of a superficial reason. There's not much depth to it beyond that. But then once you get going and once you kind of start, getting in the routine of working out or setting aside money and seeing that grow and seeing progress being made, I think it's hard for it not to become about something more. I think the depth for a lot of people can come over time. Like with working out, it might start with the superficial thing, but then you keep doing it because it makes you feel so good. You get so many other benefits from doing this thing, and I think it's hard for that why to become more deep if it's hard for it to get to that point until you start seeing the results. And then once you start seeing some progress and seeing the fruits of your labor, then you realize it's about a lot more than the reason you initially started. I'm kind of rambling, but you see where I'm going with that?
Yeah, for sure. I think you've always been the nicer one on in the deep end. I, but I'll say this. Um, it reminds me and you. I like it's reminiscent of like Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger. Like Warren Buffett would always have something nice and fluffy to say, and then Charlie Munger would just be like, "Nah, this," like
Turds and
and
raisins, man. Turds and
yeah.
raisins.
And then he'd look at Warren and be like, "I'll just defer to Warren for a nicer answer." But
Well, it's the yin and yang is important in both cases. It's important. So I'll
oh,
say
for
that.
sure, for sure. So yeah, I definitely agree with you. I just think a lot of people, and I'm going to use one of my RA extremisms. I think like 98% of people in the world are not really honest with themselves and able or capable enough to go really deep with themselves, because depth is actually really scary for a human. If
Yeah.
you get to the core root of something, you're going to have to make a change. And that sometimes can be pretty intimidating. That's that's pretty daunting in some cases. And so just based off your example, right, when okay, you have someone that has more of this surface level goal and it gets them going for sure. But here's what immediately came to mind for me. Back when I was running the gyms, I I started to implement it by myself first, right? It's just a good salesman is not, he or she does not sell someone something that they don't need. They just help them figure out why they would need such a thing if they do need it, and then
Yeah.
sell it to them, right? And
Right.
so I used to have people come into the gym, and it's one story in particular is coming to mind for me right now. There's this mother, her name was Adelina, and she had a young daughter at the time, like 3 4 years old, and she came in, and she she thought she was gonna walk away that day with a trial, week trial, not my watch,
Not on your watch.
So
Yeah, yeah.
she came in. One of the guys at the front called me up, and I showed her through the gym and brought her into the office, and I had a piece of paper out in front of me, and I wrote the word "what" on the piece of paper. Boom, slid it over to her, put the pen down. I said, Adelina, what's your, like, what? Why are you here? Like, what are you doing here? You know? And then of course she hit me with like, get in shape, right? And then I was like, great. I took it back. I circled get in shape. And then I said, can you give me a number to that though? Like, what does that look like to you? And then she described that number for herself. Okay, and here's where I think it's the depth starts. Here's where, first of all, you're building trust with someone. You're building an intimacy on a trustworthy level here, because letting when it comes to fitness and honestly finance, you need to have established trust to open up about these things. Especially a woman looking to lose weight, and she's talking to a male, right? Like, I get it. I was in the gym and this and that, but like, it's still, nonetheless, it's kind of an intimate topic, and definitely so with finances as well. Ironically, right? Like, oh, let me tell you my number, right? So, anyways,
Yeah.
I got that number from her, okay, and it wasn't she wasn't like crazy, out of shape. She just what it really was, she was a bit out of shape and didn't have energy when she came home from work to play with her daughter. And and so when I had wrote the word why on the paper and then spun it back around and slid it across the table to her, and she was like, just to lose weight and feel good about myself. And I was like, no, I'm not buying it. Like, there has to be something deeper here. Literally, that's what I said to her. And she's like, well, the truth is, and then she got into it. And a couple minutes later, she started crying. And this is when I knew, definitely one, I had the sale. Definitely one, I was closing a deal. But number two, Adelina didn't only stick around for the remainder of the year, but she stuck around for the duration of time that I was at the gym, running the gyms. And not only that, she would go on to like literally become like top dog in some of those women's classes that we had. And it was just awesome to see this mom like just like own everything, like, and so her why really came down to having lost all of her energy and excitement to get home and actually be a mother to play with her daughters after she was a single mom from work. And she didn't want to miss out on the most amazing moments that would be of her days playing with her daughter. And so that's something I was like, we can work with. But just saying you're going to get into shape, like, what does that look like? What does that really mean? Why do you even really want to do it? You got to think, 10, 20, 30 years in the future. Now you have a real why. And so now the moment that you want to give up, you're like, this isn't even for you. This is for your daughter, right? And you can go so deep with it. So I think, yeah, while it can be a nice jump start, I still think that like people fail to actually generate the depth of their whys, and that's why people quit so early. And it might get them jump started. But again, I'm just not impressed
Yeah.
with people who aren't able to keep going.
Yeah, that's a good point, and that kind of brings it back to some of the things I was saying. And you're totally right. If okay, you can have your thing that gets you in the door, but if it doesn't blossom beyond that into something more, it's going to be really hard to stick with it. It has to go. It ultimately has to go deeper than where you started. That's the only way that you can keep going. I totally agree with that. Absolutely.
Has your why changed at all since last year? I
For
mean, you got a
investing,
daughter now. Like, has anything changed with your why?
I don't know that it's changed, but I think that it's just the volume on it's been turned up a bit. And I think maybe that there's a bit more um how do I say it? I think my feet are maybe being held to the fire a little bit more. There's maybe a bit more of a sense of urgency, I suppose, to reach these financial goals that I have. Now, kind of diving a bit deeper into my why, which is I think the case for a lot of us. My why started out and still is today. It's just about having full ownership of my time. That's what led me to start investing in the first place, and that feeling was born out of the opposite feeling, like feeling like I had no control over my time, no control over my life, which weren't entirely true. That's how I was feeling in the moment in that situation. And I've talked to you guys about this before. I just, before getting into all of this stuff, I was working a job that it was really bad. Like I don't know if it was you could probably classify it as like a light depression. I was in a really bad emotional state, feeling really bad and sorry for myself, and just not in a good situation. It was probably one of the, and it wasn't even that bad, but it was probably one of the darkest times of my life, if I'm being completely honest. And it was being in that situation and feeling that motivated me to find some way to get out of that. At one point, I told myself, I'm sick of this. Like I'm not gonna do this for the rest of my life. I heard that it was around then when I heard that Buffett quote that says, if you don't find a way to make money in your sleep, you'll work until you die. And so I heard that quote and I was like, there's no way in heck I'm going to stay in this job until I'm dead. So, okay, this is it. This investing thing could get me out of that. That can, with each contribution, which with the progress that's being made in that portfolio, as I continue to take steps forward, the light at the end of the tunnel is going to get brighter and brighter. And even from the time I first started investing, that was true. And so, yeah, full ownership of my time and having full autonomy of my life is something that is very, very important to me. That is very much my driving force. And as time goes on, and you get married and you have kids, and other life stuff happens, I think that how important that is, it grows, and there's other reasons it becomes important. And so that's why I'm saying the volume on it's being turned up a bit more. So that's kind of what it started and still continues to be today, or how it started, why it started and continues to be. But it's also grown a little bit beyond that. I've learned through the process that investing, as we've talked about so many times, is also a, kind of like getting in shape or lifting weights or exercise in general. It is another form of like self-improvement. And so I've really found that in investing as well. And that's also become a big reason why I want to do more with this, because I get so much self-improvement out of it. There's been so many great skills and things that I've learned just from having this as a hobby and being consistent with it. So I would say that the why, that part of the why has developed a bit more over time. And that's something that I didn't expect when I first started, which is interesting because, like I said, when it came to lifting weights, like my why was very superficial. It was like, yeah, I just want to look good for the ladies. But it grew into something much more. It grew into something more about self-improvement and personal development. And I was surprised to find that in investing, but in hindsight, I probably shouldn't have been, because now I know that there's so many parallels between the two. Does that make sense? So the why hasn't really changed, but it has gotten louder.
Yeah, yeah. For me, the word that comes to mind is expanded. It expanded.
Expanded. Yeah, that's a better way to describe it for sure.
I feel the same. I feel, like just recently I had a really amazing experience. I gave a talk here, and someone's heard me before and came up to me and afterwards seeking just an opinion or suggestion on something. And then I had met her daughter. They're also very young, on a holiday, and she told me then that day that her daughter just the other day had a seizure. Her daughter is like 5, and I was able to, without even thinking, man, I said, does your daughter like donuts? I obviously, knowing a little kid, likes treats, right? And she was, yeah, of course. I went in my wallet, I just pulled out a wad of cash, I gave it to her. I said, please buy her something nice. Don't say it came from me or anything like that. Just it's a gift, and so I say that because there was no greater feeling than that, man. And my why has expanded, where wealth to me doesn't mean it's all for me. It means it's all for those who are with me as well. And like the more I can give, the more wealthier I feel. And so my why has now begun to expand to incorporate others. Because, at first, by the way, you can't give if you don't have. Because
Right.
you gotta make sure you're sustain, right. It's a classic when the airplane's going down, right? The oxygen mask shoots out. You put it on your face first before someone else's. So I think, to be honest with you, my mom was a tremendous giver, so much so that she'd give until she had nothing, and then she doesn't have anything. And so I learned a great deal from her. One of those things was be a giver, but two, be a giver when you can give. That's a bigger lesson. It's amazing to give, but only give really what and when you can, because it's foolish to give everything. And if you run out, you're creating a bigger problem. So, anyways, my why has definitely expanded in that way, where I now feel so much more comfortable in a giving capacity. And that's just really cool, man. I continuously am feeling myself becoming more of the man that I always wanted to become. And
That's
that's
great, man.
awesome. Yeah. And you know what? I had posted on Blossom, I think like 2 weeks ago. I said to I said to start writing down like what you want to do in 2026, like career wise or whatever it is, and money wise, and because every dollar that you earn now and invest is another dollar put towards your freedom. And then someone commented, "It sounds like you don't have a job that you love." And I was like, actually, I have a job that I would never trade for anything because I love it so much. But that still doesn't negate the fact that I want the optionality to leave and do whatever the hell I want when I want. And like that for me is like I think people misunderstand like what financial freedom really means. It doesn't mean that you need to quit your job and retire and go to a beach right now. It literally just gives you the opportunity to do what you want when you want and how you want it. If you
Yeah.
want to give, you can give. If you want to continue to work your job, continue to work your job. But know that you could do whatever you want. And that's your freedom. That's true freedom is choices and optionality in life. And I just imagine like, and I know people are like, no, money does not bring happiness. That's for sure. I know that better than anybody. But I will say, because of the optionality money gives you, it certainly makes life easier, and that is not up for debate.
Well, it's kind of like A equals if A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C. If money creates optionality and freedom, and optionality and freedom lead to happiness, then through that equation, money does lead to happiness. But we typically when that phrase is used, it's in the context of being able to buy things, and I think that's another great lesson that you learn from investing. The more progress that you make in your portfolio, kind of like you were saying, you start to feel yourself inching toward having more freedom or more optionality. You may not have it in its fullest right now. You may not be able to, reach financial freedom right this second. But kind of like I was saying earlier, when you make progress, you feel the light at the end of the tunnel becoming brighter and brighter. And as that happens, you kind of feel I don't know if this is the right like analogy for it, but you kind of feel the shackles start to loosen or start to fall off as you make more progress, and that feels good. I've certainly felt that, even just in my portfolio, 100K in.
Yeah, there's definitely like I would really say to people, give what you can, and do what you can do, on your journey. But be cautious with what you're doing and how much you're giving, and like, because you just don't want to be a fool. In my opinion, it's way cooler to be able to give, for extended amount of time, years and years, versus just, okay, cool, you had one really good year and you gave a big sum of money, or you did something for the world just once, right?
Mm.
Why not do it for decades? And that's in over time you're going to give more, right? You're going to be able to do more than, let's just say you had you had a great year in sales, you get a big bonus, and what do most people do? They spend it all. Well, it's like, well, what if you just took that bonus, 25, 50K, whatever, 100K, whatever it is, invested all of that, because then the following year, or, a handful of years from then, you have so much more money and optionality. That's just, I guess it's all delayed gratification, right?
Yeah, pretty much. And the rule of thumb is the more you can delay that gratification, the better off you'll be on the long run, which is what makes this thing so tough. But really, going back to just kind of zooming out, talking about goal setting, everything that we've talked about so far leads back to setting a certain kind of goal. You can't just willy-nilly say, "Oh, I want to do this, I want to do that." Like Ari said at the start of this conversation, you have to know why you're starting these goals, and you have to set, really what we're talking about are things called SMART goals. It's an acronym. And I'll just go through that acronym real quick. The S is for specific. So you have to, I want to reach X in the portfolio, or I want to have this much in dividend income. It has to be measurable. That the two kind of go hand in hand. That's the M. A is achievable. You can't just start out at $0 in your portfolio. Yeah. And then after 1 year, say, oh, I want to be a millionaire. You got to make it at least like somewhat realistic. Which brings us to the R. R is relevant. Now, this kind of goes back to what Ari was saying earlier when he was telling the story of Evelina, I think her name was. Her why was, at first it was just, oh, I want to, I want to lose weight, so I want to lose weight just so I can get into shape and feel good about myself. Well, that's really not relevant to what's actually going on. Or like in our case, in investing, well, I want to reach $1 million in the portfolio because just so I can be rich. It's not really that relevant, to your actual life. It's not going to, that number in itself is not going to bring anything. You're not going to get anything from that. There has to be something actually relevant to your life and yourself that is that's attached to your why. And then T is time bound. I'm going to reach $1,000 in dividend income by the end of next year. So when it comes to setting all of your goals for 2026 and the years that follow that process, follow that. And you can Google SMART goals, follow each of those, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time based or time specific, whichever it was. Those are the type of goals that you want to set for yourself. And with that said, I would love to hear from all of you guys. We should have called on this earlier, but 32 minutes in, I want to hear from all of you guys. What are your SMART goals going into 2026? Drop them in the comments below. Would love to hear what they are.
And speaking of their goals, Ryan, how do we get right into ours?
Let's do it, man. So first, let's recap what our goals were for this year and see, kind of how we settled with all of those. So I wrote these down. I have a note in my computer from like this time last year. So Ari, you had 3 goals. Well, actually, you basically just had 2 goals going into 2025. The first of which was to add $100,000 in value to your portfolio, starting at a value of $235,000. Did you hit that one?
I crushed that out of the freaking park, man.
So where are you at right now? So started 2025, 235K. What's the portfolio at right now?
I am right now sitting at $421,700.
Dang. So you almost doubled this goal. You almost were 200K over the starting point. That's unreal.
I played too small at Ryan this year.
Well, which is kind of funny to say, because adding $100,000 in value is a huge goal. Like I look at that and I think, geez, took me 5 years just to get to the first one. But you're almost doubled.
You're about to experience the gift of $100,000 and what that can do for you. Like, you'll be amazed. You won't be surprised. You'll be amazed in 2026 how quickly your portfolio will grow, because now you're in the 100 club, 100,000 club.
I'm already feeling it. And we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that more in just a moment. But your second goal, this one was a bit more general, but continue trimming your number of holdings. That might not have been the SMART goal as we just defined it earlier, but I think you did that too, right? Like you ended up selling out of a couple of holdings.
Yes.
You may or may not have this, but do you know? Well, let's recap it. Which ones did you sell out of this year?
Man,
Waste Management, right? Johnson & Johnson.
Yeah, Johnson & Johnson, Waste Management. Man, there were Visa.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because, man, I trimmed a lot. Man. I mean, think about it. A few years ago, I was upwards of 40 holdings. I trimmed down to 30, then from 30 to
Mm.
20, and then me and you really started talking about me trimming, and then I went down to like 15, and then that's when the Johnson and
Yeah.
Johnson Visa and Waste Management were kicked. It came down to 10. I'm now sitting at 8, and I'll tell you what. I mean, this is actually one of my goals for 2026. I want just 5 positions in my portfolio, just 5.
Oh, okay. So you have 8. You need to trim 3 more.
Yeah,
I think I
it's
know.
getting
We
crazy,
talked.
man.
We talked a couple weeks ago about one of them. I think, and we don't have to dwell on this too long if you don't have all the, if you haven't thought it completely through yet. But from what we talked about a couple weeks ago, UNH might be on the table. Do I have that right?
UNH is in fact on the table, but I will not sell it until you know what, I cannot, I'm not going to make that definitive statement. UNH is
Okay.
on the table. Um, I just don't want to say I will not sell it unless or if. I don't know. I don't know. It's on the table. It's up for, you know, a debate, for myself. And just to be honest with everybody, I am long UNH, as in, over the course of the long term. I'm a fan of UNH. I believe in the company. I don't think the American healthcare system is going to change all that much. There is probably not going to be universal healthcare in the United States anytime soon. So, I think right now United Health just has a bad name for itself. It's got a bad rap since everything happened 2 years ago now, and it will be on a comeback, in due time. I think they're handling really what I see as PR crises, and
Mm.
it's like one PR crisis after the next. But at the end of the day, like I said, the healthcare system, I really doubt is going to change all that much. They are the top dog in the healthcare arena. They are still driving revenue. It's not like all their revenue streams just disappeared and that's it. So yeah, they're taking heat. But here's the reason, the primary reason why it's up for debate for me is because I am a 31-year-old investor, and I see plenty of other opportunities in higher growth stocks that I feel I would reap a stronger ROI with. Um, I think I left, money on the table this year, having been invested in United Health, because they haven't been able to get their act together as quickly as I would like them to. But then on the other end, I think about it like this. You get a guy like Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, they just invested in great businesses and held them, so it's not like I'm sitting here like, oh man, like I made a bad, terrible investment decision. This was no, the way I think about it is, hey, I made a pretty smart move. By the way, Berkshire Hathaway invested in United Health about 2 months after I did. So like that's even how I know. I was like, you made a pretty good, that was a pretty good bet, right? Pretty good move. But again, based on my current investment style and my investor profile and my strategy right now, um, if I had to do it over, I don't think I would have put my money with United Health. That's not to say it's a bad company or a bad investment. It just is. It doesn't go with my investment strategy right now.
No, that makes sense. Um, okay, so it's going back to goals. That was, I mean, those were the big two for you. What about this upcoming year? What do you have on the docket for 2026? What's on the agenda?
So yeah, like I just mentioned, I want to get my portfolio down from the 8 holdings down to 5,
Get
and
down to 5 holdings. Okay, I'm
it's
writing
it's
these
not
down.
hold me accountable or kick me out of the deep end. No longer the
Yeah.
co-host of the deep end. Man can't hit his goals. uh, yeah, so I want to get down to 5 holdings in the portfolio, and the structure of the portfolio, I believe, will look as such. It will be 2 ETFs and stacked, or with 3 individual holdings stacked on top of that, and they are obviously going to be my highest conviction stocks, um, which means that my portfolio is going to look really different this upcoming year. I hope to God Blossom can get their act together and get Vanguard uh, back up and running for me, so everybody can actually see the moves I'm making in the portfolio and when I'm making them, and how the portfolio is going to be structured. Yes, this is me directly calling Blossom out. They have to get this act together. And I'm sorry for all those who have messaged me asking where my portfolio is. I'm not hiding it. Blossom needs to fix the connection. So, um, but I'm excited for that because I'm a huge fan of waging big bets on my high conviction stocks. Now, Ryan, my thought process here is this. I'm 31 years old. I'm not investing in penny stocks. Okay, I'm not investing in any companies that I think are crazy investments that are wildly risky. So, in the hypothetical event that one of these individual stocks goes down, and I lose my money on them, and I lose 100, 200 grand this year, which I don't think is going to happen, I'm 31. I still have 3 decades to make that up. So I feel insanely comfortable wagering some pretty big bets right now and knowing that at worst case, I'm going to put myself in the position to do what 99% of what our viewers are doing, which is go out there and get another job or a job and work for a paycheck, right? Like, wow, okay, so I dropped the ball that much. I have to just keep working. Like, that's not that bad, right? So, but on the flip side of this script, okay, if my bets go really well, I see a big, beautiful number in 3 years or less, which is $1 million in the portfolio, and so that's a little bit longer than the year. I certainly hope, though. Here's my number, and you tell me if I'm copping out, Ryan. I'll let you
Okay.
be the judge of this. I'm not going to say I want to hit $500,000 in the portfolio this year because I'm going to crush that. I think if all goes according to plan of how it's going now, I think it's going to be very doable for me to hit $500,000 in the portfolio. So I want to strive to hit at this point a value in the portfolio of 550,000 minimum.
Okay. I'm sorry, writing it down.
But what do you think about that? Am I playing too small?
Based on this year's numbers, I do think you are playing too small because I mean, you pretty much added $190,000 here in 2025, going from 235 to just over 420. So even adding an extra 100, not even 130K from here, based on this year's numbers, is doable. But I don't know. The tricky thing about setting these portfolio value goals is that it leaves at least a certain percentage of it up to chance. There's attached to this are things that are not within your control, so it does make it tough to gauge. And I
That's
wish,
what that's my reservation with like throwing
I
out,
know.
if I were to say 600,000, which I think I can do. But I'm like looking at the market right now and AI and the bubble, and I'm like, well, okay, if this then that, do I really want to throw out a goal that again, according to SMART goals like you just shared, right? It has to be
Yeah,
achievable. And I also
true.
think something that gave me a great amount of momentum in 2025 was I said at $100,000 in value, right? And then I like hit it, and
Hmm.
then I was like off to the races because it was just like, oh man, you're just gaining momentum now.
Hmm.
But maybe 575 is a more realistic number for myself.
Well, I mean, you did just say you think you could hit 600,000. So,
Should I minimum 575?
okay, we'll say minimum 575. I think that's a fair compromise.
This is the thing with me is like when I say something, I do it, right? So
Yeah,
by
I know.
any means necessary. So that's kind of like the big like I got to be careful with what I say because if I don't, this
Well,
world's
I
got
know.
another thing coming.
And my fear is that in setting more of a lofty goal, you you'll try and cut corners in your saving, and you won't be able to have your Ben and Jerry's throughout the year. And I don't want you to have to suffer that way. I want you to have your cappuccino ice cream. I don't think that's what you
Yeah,
get.
man.
What flavor do you get? I think I'm close for like espresso or something, right?
I mix it up. Yeah, it's a coffee flavor one week and cookie dough the next week. I kind of go
Okay.
back and forth. Yeah.
But I think, 575 is a pretty good goal. I mean, if you were to get another 20% return from here, that's an extra, let's call it 90K. So that would put you at just over 500, 510. That means you'd have to contribute 65K on top of that. That's a lot. So I don't know. I don't know how much you're contributing every week or every month, but it's a big goal. It's a big goal.
I'd say let's do it, man. Let's lock in at
Okay.
575.
Okay. Let's do it. And then we'll see how the year goes. We tend to revisit these every quarter or like, halfway through the year. So we'll see how things shape up throughout the year. But okay, so we've got two good goals so far. Get down to 5 holdings, 575K portfolio value. Is there anything else you're kind of looking at for the year? Any other goals?
Does it have to be financial?
No, we can get into personal goals or otherwise if you'd like to. Yeah.
I'd like to add 10 more countries to my travel list. 10 new
Okay.
countries I've never set foot in before.
So, okay, that's a good goal. I know you've got a big trip coming up here pretty soon. Give us the itinerary on that because you'll probably hit at least a few of those countries, a few of those
Yeah.
10, right?
Yeah, so far I have planned out now. I actually just started planning it yesterday and into today. Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, Bolivia, Argentina, Chile,
All right, well,
potentially.
there you go. That's 60% of your goal right there.
Yeah. Now we'll see, man, because that deals in time and like I just got to make it all work. But that's right now what's on the list. And then hopefully by mid or late 2026, I find myself in East Asia, which should be the other half of the five or so six countries.
Okay, nice, man. Okay, few solid goals there.
What about you, man? Let's kick the ball over to you. What's going on in
All
the
right.
Ryan
Well,
Williams goal setting
well, just to
universe?
recap, 2025, I had three big goals that I was trying to hit. The first of which was to reach 450 shares of SCHD. I don't remember where I started out the year, but I can tell you that we blew this goal out of the water. So at this point in time, I'm sitting at like 508 shares of SCHD. So we surpassed that by, almost 60 shares. So pretty happy with that. That was goal number one. Goal number two was to reach $3,600 in projected annual dividend income. And the reason 3,600 is relevant for me, I guess, well, relevant for anyone, is that it breaks down to an average monthly income of $300. So I really wanted to get there. And let me actually pull it up and see where I'm at right now. I have blown that out of the water too, which I'm very happy to say. It's funny because I hit that number. I don't know. You guys will remember probably better than I will, but I hit that a couple or a few months ago now. And so then I readjusted my goal and said, okay, well, I want to hit 4,000 then. I've already hit that 3,600. Let's see if we can get to 4,000 by the end of the year. And now at this point in time, according to my portfolio tracking spreadsheet, which is out of all the different portfolio trackers I use between this one, Snowball Analytics, Blossom, this one is always the most conservative number. So I always like to go off of this one. My projected annual income moving forward is basically $4,072. So, we were over $70 past that stretch goal of 4K. So, definitely set too conservative a goal for that going into this next year. And then my third and final goal, which is actually the only one I did not hit, and this was a stretch goal too, is to reach $125,000 in the portfolio. So I wanted to hit that portfolio value. I started out the year, if you guys will remember, I think Ari will, I started out the year just wanting to hit 100K. I was like, 100K will be a stretch goal for me. I came into 2025 at like an $87,000 portfolio value. And on this chat, same conversation from last year, Ari said, no, that's not going to fly with me. Not on my watch. Once again, he gave me one of these. He said, you can do
You know
more.
it's
You can
real when
do
I give you
better.
it.
Yeah, when you give me the Motumbo finger. And so he said 125, that's your number. And okay, let's go for it. And so
What's
I
the
did not hit that
portfolio at
goal.
right now, though? You're really close, man.
Dude, I'm so close. I am at $120,216. We are less than $5,000 away from that. Um, and I don't want to make excuses. I could have gotten there, but as you guys know, I've been saving for other things. I've really been trying to be smart with saving, and right now I want to save more cash for a few reasons. I've talked about this before. We're saving up for a car. We're going to be buying that in the next couple of months. We're officially going to be doing it. So I've been saving cash for that. My wife's on maternity leave now. She'll be on maternity leave till April. So, I wanted to just have some cash set aside, just have more available funds just in case any unforeseen events, and also not knowing what hospital bills we were going to have to pay for. And the interesting thing about you guys who've had babies, you'll get this. The thing that I did not expect is, okay, so we paid for all of our labor and delivery fees up front before we even had the baby. Standard stuff, you know, the epidural, the all the medicine, everything to deliver the baby, even like down to the breakfast that you get the day after the meal, and paid that up front. And then afterwards, a couple weeks afterwards or a few weeks afterwards, we get one more bill, a handful of hundreds of dollars. I don't even know what it was for, something small. And then a month after that, another bill. It was like an extra $900. And then soon after that one, we received another bill. And this last bill was for, like, that was the baby's expenses. It was everything for the baby. It was her bills that we then had to pay for. So it's like, man, these things keep coming out of the woodwork. Was not expecting that. So anyway, all of these things combined, just feel like I've been needing to save up some more cash, not deploying it into the portfolio. Because this is forever. Like, the portfolio money, that's untouchable, okay? At least in my mind. And so we probably would have hit the goal if not for some of this other stuff. And I'm going to be a bit more conservative too in my contributions until, and this will tie into, this kind of ties into 2026 goals too. But I'm going to be a bit conservative, I think, until we get the car bought, see where the dust settles from that, and also until my wife goes back to work. Because at this point, from now until then, it's pretty much just my income keep paying for all the expenses, which is totally fine. Happy to do it. But that's just kind of where we're at right now.
Well, I'm happy you went in this direction because I think a big problem that people also have after they quit on themselves is they just always fail to even go to why they quit or what went wrong. And this brings me back to something I always do in business. After I, would roll out a sales strategy or marketing strategy, I would always bring a team in and I round everybody up and I put on the board what went wrong, question
Yeah.
mark. And then I just have everybody throw out a reason or two about, why we didn't hit, why they think we didn't hit, something that literally just went wrong. Someone fumbled here or something happened here. And then we're able to look at the board and actually then circle the real reasons why things didn't really work out and like how we executed or how we didn't execute, or whatever it is. And I think that's really important what you just, said, because, you actually said quite a few things. You said I'm not making excuses, number one, and then you
And
talked
then I
about something
proceeded to make excuses.
to make excuses. But no, you know what? You got, I think that even that in of itself, like you gotta, maybe, look, if you really wanted to right now, you could throw in 5K into the portfolio, but you're making a
Yeah.
choice not to do it. So I would say in your case, it's not that like in my book, you kind of hit, right? Like even though it's not in your portfolio, you have money that's there. It's not like it's just non-existent. There's nothing there, right? It's just you're making a choice not to put it into the portfolio. And I think that's something that's important and powerful to be aware of. Because, when I look at my portfolio, I have multiple accounts, right? So I do have a different retirement account and another savings account. And so like when people see my portfolio, it's not just 421, right?
Right.
But I like to play as if I only have 421 in there,
Yeah. Same.
because
Same
the
here. Yeah.
savings, right, is non-existent over here, and that's for savings, that's emergency. And so yeah, but I think it's always important, at least, for me, it's like, well, you got to be real with yourself, and like, were there also things in the year that you could have done differently?
Yeah.
And this is, I
Totally.
think, the question no one likes to sit down and ask, because then people, well, you only live once, and like, da, da, da. It's like, nah, shut up, right? Like, you could have operated differently. This is where I Charlie Munger it. Like, you have a goal, and for me, when I have a goal, the goal is number one, and then other, like, because that is the priority, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then other things come along, but did I hit the goal? You know?
Sure.
And if I didn't hit and I'm not talking about you, Ryan. I'm like,
No, I know.
generally speaking, people, they fail to say what went wrong, and they fail to bring to the table the clarity that they need, because that clarity sets them up the next go round for more of a I feel realistic goal for themselves,
Hmm.
and knowing what went wrong, and how life happened, and like and how you handled life challenges. Like, you can then set wiser goals in the future, because now you know how you operate when someone comes over to your lemonade stand and kicks over your lemonade. Like, what do you do? Like, oh, I gave up, or oh, I just went to the store, I had to buy a new lemonade stand, or like whatever. Like, I set up two lemonade stands. Like, I don't know. You just learn how to navigate differently and set realistic goals, so that never hits again. Because in my mind, if you don't hit your goal, that's just one whisper in your ear for the next time that's like, it's okay. It's all good.
Well, it's like it's not the end of the world. I totally know what you mean. It is okay. Like I'm gonna survive and be just fine, even though I missed out on that extra 5K in the portfolio. But I totally know what you're saying. It's like you don't want to keep letting yourself down. That will trickle into other areas of your life, and you need to show up for yourself. And I also want to add to, I had my YOLO moments this year as well. At least somewhat inspired by these conversations too, because we've talked about balance and living life outside of the portfolio too, and I had my moments with that as well. Last month we went to Newport Beach for a few days. That cost some money. I ended up buying, I don't know if we've talked about this, but I bought my wife the watch. I did it, and so that was quite a bit of money too. And so having not, if I didn't do those things, okay, well, that would have been money invested in the portfolio. But I still, looking back on those expenses and the other things, I feel great. I feel great about everything. I made some great strides in the portfolio this year. I actually, to be honest with you, I went farther in the portfolio this year than I thought I would have. I thought I would be probably like just over 100K by this time, but we've blown past that. And also, I've done some fun things outside of this too, and I've spent money on other people. I don't know. I feel like I had a really good balance this year, and so I guess what I'm trying to say is no regrets at all. And oh, go
Again,
ahead.
though, but what I said though wasn't even geared towards you. I just was going
No, I
towards the
know that.
angle of people need to do what you did, which is like go through the list of like what happened,
Yeah, it's a
so they
post-mortem
understand it.
basically.
Because you, like I said, it's not like you don't have the money. You just have it sitting somewhere else.
Well,
That's
yeah,
like you could put it in the brokerage account, and it sits in the settlement fund, and then it's there, right? Like, so you have the money. That's why it's not really applicable for you.
well, what's funny is like the money that I don't have invested, kind of like you, it's mostly all sitting in a high yield cash account over on Public, which is also where I have my Roth IRA, and that money invested is bringing in like an extra $100 a month in. It's almost basically an extra $100 a month in dividends that I'm getting
Yeah.
from just that cash. And kind of like you, I don't really include that in any of the monthly numbers. I don't really include that in the value because it's, I don't know. I don't really look at it as an investment, which I don't think you should. But even though it is generating interest. But so all of that leads to, okay, that's what happened in 2025. Now we're going to get into 2026. Here's kind of what I have on deck for this upcoming year. And I think one of these goals is going to be a bit of a lofty goal, and I'll just start with that one. I would say that my loftiest goal for 2026 is to reach 175K in the portfolio. So that's an extra $55,000 on top of where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
And I think for me, this is a stretch goal. This year I added $35,000, almost $35,000 in value. I think, you know,
Ryan, I think you got 200 in you, man.
okay. So
This is what happened last year.
hold on. My heart just skipped a beat.
We should, but for your goal, we should put your goal and then my goal for you.
Yeah, we should, huh? I think 175 is reasonable. Because it is a bit beyond what I'm comfortable with. Initially, when I was writing these down, man, I was thinking, let me just get to 150K. But I thought, no, I'm going to get one of these. That's not going to fly. So let's do 175. I think adding an extra $55,000 on top of where I'm at now is a lot. For me, that's going to be a lot. That's basically adding another third, like an extra 33% in value compared to where I'm at right now. And kind of like I was saying earlier too, for these next few months, for the first, quarter of the year, for the first third of the year, actually, I'm going to be a bit conservative in my contributions. And so considering that, I think, yeah, that really does make this a stretch goal. And then after kind of get some of these big ticket things behind me, I really, really want to hit the ground running and just really go all in, as you would say, like as much as I can, be really, really, really focused on investing like as much as I can get my hands on. Kind of once some of the dust settles from those big things in the first part of the year. So, I think 175 is going to be, I think it's a good balance. Like I said, it's a bit beyond what I'm comfortable with, but I also do see a reality where it's achievable. I think, in my portfolio overall, I didn't see super crazy returns this year. I mean, shouldn't have expected to. My portfolio was up like 9%. Which is like, that's a sustainable return. Like if I can just do that, which I don't think is a whole lot to ask in this upcoming year, if I can do that and invest a little bit more than I did this year, I can be there. I can do it. And so that's kind of my thought process for this first goal. But once again, kind of like you reaching that 575K, there is a lot that's outside of our control with those. So we're just going to have to see where the wind blows in this upcoming year. It's going to be interesting, but I'm going to try my darndest to get there. Like I'm going to do everything that I can control to do my part to get there. I'll need a little bit of help from the market, but we'll see if it's kind in 2026. So that's goal number one. Goal number two, and there's a theme with these goals, you guys will notice for me. Every year it's like I want to reach a certain SCHD goal. I want to reach a certain portfolio value goal. I want to reach a certain dividend income goal. Now with the SCHD, so like I said, right now I'm sitting at about 510 shares, just under that. I want to reach 625 shares by the end of 2026. I really haven't. Well, actually, man, I think I need to up this
point,
one.
You're competing with SD. Wow.
SCHD Stan with Craig. I think so.
Yeah.
And now that I'm saying this, honestly, let me know what you think, but I think I might have to up this goal because right now on average, just through my weekly contributions, I'm able to get about 2.5 shares. About 2.5 shares of SCHD. So to get to this goal, 625 from 510, that's 115. Just for my dollar cost averaging, I should be there. This doesn't even count like dividends being reinvested. And so it's like, okay, I'm automatically going to hit this goal. So I'm kind of thinking I might need to up this to 650. And that's also taking into consideration, I believe this is true. I think they're raising the Roth IRA contribution limit. Did you read anything about that?
I did. It's what, 7,500 now, right?
7,500. So yeah, an extra, 250 is going to get me, because it goes split evenly between that and VOO. An extra 250 in the year is going to get me an extra just under 10 shares at current price. So I think 650 is the goal to reach. an extra 140 shares by this time next year. So that's goal number
I
two.
I think that's better. Yeah, I think that's much
Okay,
better.
cool. And then goal number three is to reach $5,000 in annual dividend income. So right now I'm at 4,070. We're gonna have to go up on this one too.
Yeah, I was gonna say, can we pump your numbers, man? Maybe
Yeah.
like 5,500.
Okay. I think yeah. I think that's kind of akin to the 175K. It's a bit beyond what I might be comfortable with, but I also see a situation where it could be achievable. Okay, so 5,500, that's an extra basically 1,430. Yeah, that's an extra
You
$1,400
you
added
also
to
have to
now.
factor in, man. You hit the six figure club. You know,
Yeah,
like it really does just change everything. It changes everything. It's so much more momentum. The compounding is working.
that's true. And to be fair, to your point, just this year, I think I added, I don't remember the exact number. I shared it in a video today, but I think I added like just over $1,000 in dividend income this year. So I have no reason to believe why I won't be able to do that again in 2026. And then, maybe throw an extra few $100s on top of that. That brings us to the 5,500 of dividend income. Okay.
Yeah,
So we got
easy,
650 shares of SCHD, 175K portfolio value, $5,500 in dividend income.
easy.
Wow. Okay. I like this, man. This is cool.
I thought, to be honest, I thought that, the market would really pick up by the end of the year here and we'd be soaring. I thought I would enter, and we still have a few days really left to go here in 2025, but I'm doubtful I'm going to see my portfolio get to 430 before 2026. I thought we might get there.
Yeah, because we really only have, tomorrow's the 28th. We only have, I guess, 3 more trading days in the year, huh?
Yeah.
And I don't know what the hours are on New Year's Eve, but I
I
can't
think
imagine it's
it's
a
a
full
half
day.
day, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Well, man, I think we both set some really solid goals. We'll revisit these. I think we'll check these out on a quarterly basis just to see how things are going. But yeah, we each have 3 pretty solid goals here. I'm excited for it. I think I came into this pretty confident, thinking I can hit 2 out of these 3, no problem. But now I'm like, man, I don't know. I think
Then
the
you spoke to
SCHD
me.
goal. Yeah, I think the SCHD goal. Okay, that one I think is pretty within bounds. But these other 2, man, I'm gonna have to work for it. But that's what it's all about. That's why you do this. You should set goals that you are a bit uncomfortable with, and in doing so, you might get a little bit farther. Even if you don't hit that goal, you could still get a little bit farther than if you were to set that smaller goal. You know what I mean?
Yeah, not only that, I would just say don't just set goals. Hold yourself to the fire by telling other people.
Yeah.
Ryan and I are very vulnerable here on the deep end, throwing ourselves out there, not just on the deep end, but our own channels. And I don't know about you, Ryan, but when I speak to other people and they, want to ask me about my financial goals, I'm open about it. So, and I take it you're the same.
Yeah.
So put yourself out there enough so that when you don't hit your goal, like I feel accountable, right? I'm like, I just told the world via the internet that I'm going to do this, right? Or I just told, my friends or whomever, right, that I was going to do, pass the Series 7 before the end of the year or whatever, right? And that happened, right? So it's just like, put yourself out there to hold your feet to the fire. Don't just, whisper to yourself like, I'm going to do this. And then if you don't hit it, well, no one knew, so it's okay.
That's okay.
No. Tell people so other people can look at you and give you an honest feedback. But 2, I don't know about you, man. All of my friends, though, I keep a close circle. All of my friends, if I don't hit my goals, it's just like, what the heck, right? Like, what are you doing? So it makes me a better, stronger person to surround myself with people that are going to give me honest feedback and hold me to the fire. And then I also think about it. I'm going to be pretty embarrassed, man, if I don't hit 575 in this portfolio come the end of 2026, and I got to come on here to the deep end with my head looking down. I didn't hit.
Disgrace. Absolute disgrace.
Just find a new co-host, dude. I'm out.
Well, we'll see how this year goes, man. 2025, just to close the book on this episode, to close the book on the entire year, which once again, I cannot believe we're already at the end of the year. But to close the book on all of this, it was a great year. It really was. It exceeded my expectations in all fronts, in every department. It was a good year, and we'll see how this next one goes. I think we're going to have another one way or another.
Touche, and hoping everybody finishes out the year strong, healthy, wealthy, everything in between. Most importantly, just to end how we started, make sure you are subscribed to the Deep End, because Ryan and I are truly just getting started. Crazy, amazing, epic plans coming up for 2026. Guests up the wazoo. And just as you already know now with our goals, just a lot to be spoken about in the new year. So subscribe now, join us for 2026 and beyond. And until the next episode in the new year, we will see you in the next one.